Hello and welcome to Aardvark Asks, the segment where we talk with game developers about how they got into the industry, a little bit about the background, and of course any advice that they could give to candidates looking for a new role in the industry. I'm your host Michael Rodbert, and with me today is Simon Viklund of 10 Chambers, famously known for the soundtracks of Payday 1 and 2. He's currently the narrative director of their debut title, GTFO. Hello Simon, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
How did you first become interested in the game industry, and more specifically the field of sound design for games?
I was making electronic music in high school back in the mid-90s, and I went to high school with an individual by the name of Ulf Andersson, who later he quit high school and founded a game development studio. And then they were looking for someone to finance their first projects. They were sort of making something that never turned out to be anything that we released, but I helped them out still in high school, on weekends and evenings, making music for those projects, when they were still looking for finances. And by the time that they actually could start a proper company and hire people, I had already graduated high school. So that's when I started working with them. And so I sort of slipped in on a banana peel. I don't know. It wasn't really, I didn't have like a plan. Like I loved games all the way from 8. I was 8. I played NES, and PC games throughout the 90s. And then I loved games, but I never had the sort of a game plan, no pun intended, but like an approach or an idea that even it would be possible for me to be involved in making games. So I'm just happy that Ulf took action, because he loved games as well, and he's a multi-talented guy, with both 3D graphics and drawing and coming up with game concepts and analyzing what makes a game tick, and also programming. And he just decided that this is my profession. And I just sort of, I guess that opened up the door for me as well.
Yeah. What would you, obviously it's been a while since those beginnings. What would you say to yourself, looking back now retrospectively, in terms of advice to someone starting out? What kind of advice would you give to them?
That's tough, because I've never had, in my entire 21-year career, I've never had to go on a job interview, ever. Because I've always followed Ulf around. Like whenever a company went bankrupt, that's happened once. I make it sound like that's happened several times, and he's not good at running companies. That's not the case, but it happened once. Grin went bankrupt in 2009. And then he asked me, like, you want to keep going? We can found something. We start something new, a couple of guys, and we try to make something, maybe apps, because smartphones were all the rage, 2009. It was just sort of exploding, I guess. And then, we made apps for a few months, none that were actually released. And then Ulf came into the office one day. I'm saying office with with quotation marks, because it was really just like a basement. It wasn't fit for having an office. If all the computers were running at the same time and you started the microwave, the fuse, it blew the fuse. So you had to you asked everyone, save your work now, because I'm starting the microwave, because all the computers might die when I start the microwave. That was sort of the situation we were in. We didn't have the money to have a proper office. But anyway, he came into this basement one day and said, let's not make apps. Let's just quit that and make something proper. I think we're better at doing something that is like a first-person shooter. And then he had this elevator pitch, which was Left 4 Dead, but instead of zombies, you have cops and you're bank robbers. And that was such a simple concept, and we wondered, like, why hasn't anyone done that before? it's such a obvious thing, cops and robbers, and then just have, the escalation, like, oh, it goes from like regular security guards to police to SWAT and maybe even like military units, and you can, it just made sense, and we that's when we started making Payday the Heist, which was released in 2011. But then after a while, Overkill Software, which was that company, was acquired by Starbreeze, and then we both quit Starbreeze around 2014, 2015, I believe, and now we're here. So back to your question, I'm not very good at like giving people suggestions on how to get into the business, because I was in high school age, when I just happened to know a guy who took matters into his own hands and started his own studio, and I happened to be friends with him, and I was on my way.
Yeah, I think that answers the question anyway. I mean, for a lot of juniors who listen to the podcast, it's all about networking and just having your artwork in the back of someone's mind. So I think that's what I took from your answer anyway. So I think that you answered the question right, in a way that the games industry, pushes forward with recruitment anyway.
Yeah. I get the question every once in a while, and something I often say is that I think you should have at least two out of the three, these three, which is 1, connections, 2, talent, and 3, willingness to work really, really hard. And if you have 2 of them, you can probably manage without the third. Obviously you have to work hard regardless, but you can sort of compensate if you're not born with like a God-given gift within programming or whatever. You can certainly, if you study and just own your skills, then you can get better, and then it's important to maybe to know the right people as well. But if you don't know the right people, maybe being both talented and working really hard, you can get your foot in the door and get involved in smaller projects. You're not going to be game designer at Naughty Dog, starting off. You need to I guess crawl before you can walk, and just manage your expectations in terms of, you're not going to be making the games that you probably love playing, but that might be your goal, so start off with something which is more of an indie project, or it might even be like a spare time sort of modding project, and then that's something you can point towards when you're looking for a job. You can link to that, and show off your skills, and that proves that you can work in a team. And even if you don't get a job based on that, maybe someone else who worked on that project gets hired, and then they're your person on the inside who might mention your name or put your name in the hat whenever at their workplace someone asks, do you know any programmers, or do you know any, and that might be you, and then that's your foot in the door. So it's just important to get involved with projects of any kind, and network. That's networking as well, I guess. Even though it might not be with people who are already in the business, it's good to know people who might get hired and might pull you along into something new.
Sort of piggybacking off that, you've sort of been in that collaborative partnership since high school. How have you maintained that kind of working relationship, and also to an extent friendship with someone for that long? Obviously you've been through thick and thin, through bankruptcy, company changes, company acquisitions. How have you maintained a good working relationship to the point where you've had the recent successes that you have? How's that kind of developed and come to fruition?
It's had its ups and downs for sure, but Ulf is amazingly talented. I realize how key Ulf is to the project. He might come up with the original idea, and then someone else runs with it, and it just doesn't turn out great unless you stay the course, or Ulf is there to sort of correct the the direction. I'm in awe of his ability just to know what makes games tick. And it's really the past few years when both of us have had kids, when it's difficult to maintain, watching movies on together or play. We played Destiny together, cooperatively a few years back. But then he had kids before me, and now I also have kids, and I have a greater understanding of how little time you have and how much you want to spend that time with your family, So it's less of the like hanging out and playing games together and watching movies together, which was easier before. So now it's more of a professional relationship, I guess. It's just having respect and admiration for one another. I can only speak for myself, but he's a great friend and collaborator.
Yeah. So in terms of that long period of time, obviously there's a lot of projects you worked on, from Payday to GTFO to all things in between. Have you had a favourite role that you've worked on?
I mean, it was amazing being the creative director for Bionic Commando Rearmed back in 2008, because that was like I was giving the reins really for that project, which was great, and it was a remake of a game that I truly loved growing up, So that was definitely a career highlight. But it's been great, One of the moments or times, if I could choose a week or a few days that would be cool to relive, that was when we went to E3 in 2011. So it was June 2011. We had been working on Payday the Heist for 18 months and not released a trailer, not told anyone about it. No one knew about Overkill Software. And then we came to E3 and showed off the game, and it was finished enough to be released, I think, August that same year, 2 months later, 2 months after E3. So we basically came to E3 with a finished game that no one had ever seen before. So we became sort of, we won a lot of best surprise of E3 awards from different publications. And because people were just, they didn't even know that the game was in development, and that here it is, you can play it, and it's practically finished. And there was a release date only 2 months later. That was cool. We felt like rock stars. We're owning this. Obviously there are the Call of Duties and the Grand Theft Autos and the bigger titles, but we felt like we came to E3 and really just disrupted something.
Well, thank you very much, Simon, for joining us on the Aardvark Asks section today. For anyone listening, if you are interested, if you have enjoyed it, please do join us again next time. I've been your host, Michael Rodber, for Aardvark Swift. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.